Next month marks 32 years since the Centers for Disease Control first acknowledged that medicine meant to treat the disease hemophilia was actually infecting people with the HIV virus. This outbreak among hemophiliacs in the early 80s infected between 6,000 and 10,000 people, despite the fact that pharmaceutical companies, chiefly pharma giant Bayer, knew the plasma they were using to create their blood clotting product was tainted. So here to discuss this harrowing anniversary and what the case tells us about corporate accountability today, I'm joined now by attorney, host of Ring of Fire Radio, Mike Papantonio. Thanks so much, Mike, for coming on.
That'd be good to be here.
So for those that don't know about this case, can you quickly explain how Bayer was able to sell HIV-contaminated blood products to the public and how early Bayer knew about the problem?
Well, they knew about it within a year and a half after the product was on the market. They knew there was some contamination in the blood that was causing some very serious illness. And they said, well, gee, we didn't know that was HIV. We didn't know it was AIDS. Well, they did. All they had to do was do basic testing even at that point. But what's worse is once they knew that whatever it was in the blood was killing people, they said, you know what, we're going to take it off the market here. And then they immediately started selling in places like South America and Asia, where people actually went to prison. You had actually people working for the companies overseas going to prison. Nobody went to prison here. They killed thousands of people. They knowingly killed thousands of people. Because you know why? Because they said, we have all of this stuff in stock. We have to do something with it, so what are we going to do? We're going to sell it to a place where nobody knows about it. And so you'd have children that would infect the entire family with the AIDS virus. And interestingly enough, again, nobody went to prison in the United States.
Wow, I guess just a bunch of market casualties there, huh? I mean, wow, what an unbelievable criminal act here. Why were there no criminal charges against top executives at the company in this own country?
Well, at that point, they had started developing a lobby. I actually handled part of that case, and they sent so much lobby money to Washington, D.C., that the Department of Justice didn't do what they should have done. But we're seeing this with designer drug products that are killing and crippling consumers, Abby, all over the United States. Typically, they make it to the market with the same steps. First, the industry capitalizes on direct-to-consumer advertising laws that are only good in the United States and Australia, where they can tell a consumer, hey, use our drug, use our factor 8 drug, and it'll solve your problem with clotting. And then that's direct-to-consumer advertising that you don't see anywhere else. So they create the need for the market. They even go as far as creating diseases sometimes. They create diagnosable diseases that we've never even heard of before. Turn on your TV on most days and you'll see drugs being hustled for everything ranging from restless feet to restless eyes, for God's sakes. Feeling old, you take testosterone gel. Feeling underperformer, you take Viagra. Feeling sad, mad, or overly glad, you pop a pink pill or two and you're good as new. The first step for any accomplished drug hustler is to create the need for this endless market with an advertising blitz, and that's the new designer drug approach. That's only the first step. And the first step, too, of course, is to hustle the FDA and use the FDA insiders that you're paying money to indirectly to go to work.
What a mess. I mean, this is just so insane, though, because, I mean, knowingly infecting people and then sending it to developing countries that you know is tainted medication here that could cause HIV. I mean, it's just a whole nother level of insanity here, Mike. I mean, you've called it a rogue operation. I wanted you to talk first about why you called it that, and then also how the notion of corporate personhood plays into these type of cases.
Yeah, in many countries, when a company does this type of thing, they lose their right to be a corporate person. They get the death penalty. Abby, they're told you can't do business in here. You're a repeat offender. Bayer has more repeat offending fines and criminal sanctions of any company I've ever worked against, and I've been doing this for 30 years. They're all equally bad in one way or another, but the point is, until you say to a company, you do this once, we're going to maybe look the other way. You do it twice, you're going to lose your license to do business. Until we do that, you're always going to have that criminal culture. They're a rogue company in many ways, but now it's kind of the regular way of doing business in the United States. It's called big risk and quick profits. MBAs, come out of school and they're moving through. They take a position on the board of a company like Bayer. They know they're only going to be there for a few years, so they break every rule they can. They push the law to the max, and they make as much money as they can in bonuses, and then they leave the mess for the next CEO to come along. It's the new way of doing business. It is the new model for pharmaceutical companies nowadays. Used to be a CEO would stay with the company, Abby, for 25, 30 years. Not anymore. They're young kids, MBAs, moving through, trying to grab up as much profit as they can. The decisions they make most of the time are criminal. And I don't overstate that. They are criminal decisions, and we look the other way and say it's okay for you to do that. It's just the way we're doing business in the United States.
But it's just insane, Mike, and I don't think a lot of people realize that there's only direct-to-consumer advertising with pharmaceutical companies here in New Zealand. So it really is this kind of, in terms of big pharma, I mean, this is a very, very unique problem here in America. I mean, a study just came out by author Brandon Garrett that examined 303 non-prosecution, deferred prosecution deals between corporations and the government between 2001 and 2014, and found that only 34% of the time was an individual charged with a crime, and of those, only 42% received any jail time. I mean, obviously, this Bayer thing happened long before the corporate personhood thing. I mean, how did our judicial system evolve to treat corporate crime so differently than street crime?
Well, it became a matter of money. There was a time when the pharmaceutical industry, and it was right around the time of this Bayer case we're talking about, that they figured out if we give the same amount of money to Democrats as we do to Republicans, then we've covered ourselves on both ways. For example, Loretta Lynch, the new AG that Obama's trying to push through. Democrats are looking like, oh, this woman's wonderful. Well, she's not wonderful. She's simply a corporate hack, just like the other people that have come before her. But the industry, the drug industry, figured out we have to cover both sides of the aisle, so they started spreading around huge money to Democrats, just like Republicans, and they passed laws that allowed them to do things like direct-to-consumer advertising. They passed laws to make it almost impossible to meet the criminal threshold for a white-collar criminal who's dressed up in an Armani suit. And so they made it so difficult to where these guys running these companies, they don't feel any risk at all. They feel no risk at all because they say, yeah, we're a person, but we're a person that's so big that you can't put us in jail because you can't pinpoint who made the decision.
Unbelievable. Thank goodness for lawyers like you who are taking on these real criminals. We need to end the two-tier justice system. Mike Papantonio, host of Ring of Fire Radio, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Adam.